DIY with Chris, giving you the tools to do it yourself.
Hello everyone. This week we're going over how to clean your throttle body. This is going to be on a 2011 GMC Sierra 2500 HD. The reason why we're doing this is because a little while ago we were driving down the road, and on the message center I came across a message that we had reduced engine power. As that occurred, I also had an engine light that came on, and my truck would not go anything past about 15 miles an hour was the average. Sometimes it let me go up to 20, but 15 miles per hour was the average for that. So we were stuck in a reduced engine power state and couldn't drive very fast. I also looked up some forums, couldn't really find a whole bunch of information on it. A lot of people had a bunch, just a whole array of different work that they had completed on their vehicles. So we ended up taking it into the shop so that they could go over the code and everything. It was a GMC dealership, and they actually told us that from 09 all the way up to the most recent models that the control sensor, or the computer on the throttle body actually has some issues. It's not a big enough issue or wide-ranging issue for them to issue a full recall on the product. However, that particular shop just keeps those parts in stock because they see it so frequently. So they went ahead and replaced the computer system on that throttle body, but they also told me that the throttle body was very dirty, and they recommended that we get it cleaned, and they were going to charge about $260 for it. So we definitely didn't want to spend that much money on a project that we could do on our own. So right now that's what we're getting into. The only things you really need for this is some shop tools that you should already have, and then also a cleaner spray. So we'll go over that here in a little bit, but all of that really just cost, pretty much the only cost I have incurred here is the cost of the spray, because I didn't have it before, and that was only $6. So we should be able to complete this whole project within a few hours for about $6 rather than $260. So you should be able to do this yourself and save yourself a lot of time and a lot of money that a dealership might try and charge you for. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started here. Just give you a little bit of an engine orientation. We do have our battery that's up here in the back, and then this is our air intake. The air intake hose, and it's going up to your main block of your engine. So the main components that we're actually going to have to deal with here in order to expose our throttle body is going to be to remove this air intake system. Right here back behind it, after we get this removed, is where the throttle body is going to be. So the first step that we're going to take to remove this is going to be to loosen the clamps. So we have one right here. And so it's just regular hose clamps. Can't see it very well, but these are just regular hose clamps that we're going to have to loosen. After you have that loose, then you'll be able to remove this side, and then the other one that we're going to have to do is also going to be on this other side. So that one's currently under this cover. In order to remove the cover, all we're going to have to do is, there are no bolts for it or anything, it's just kind of it's a system. So you'll see right here in the middle that there is this little barb, and then that actually just goes up into a piece that holds your cover down onto it. So we have our cover right here. You just take it off, move it off to the side. So now we have access to our other hose clamp. We're going to go ahead and undo that, and then we're going to work on removing this air intake system. So one more thing that we're going to have to do in order to make sure that we can get this off is if you rotate back here, so you see the front, and then if we rotate down, there's this little piece. Under this piece is another little plug, and that's holding it to the radiator hose. So that's your radiator hose that's going by. So we just have to pull that off, get that plug off, remove the other clamp. The other thing that we're going to have to do here is remove this tube. So this just, you can wiggle it out and it'll pop right out. There's no other things that you really need to worry about it, but just go ahead and move that right off. That is still part of your air intake system, so we just have to loosen that. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen this other hose clamp, and then we'll start removing this from the engine block there. Okay, so in order to remove this after you have your hose clamp loosened, then we're just going to pull on it. It'll take a little bit of force. You might have to wiggle it a little bit, but you just pull on it, and then that came right off. So it is disconnected now. I'm going to come over to the other side. We have loosened this one as well. So we'll wiggle it loose. We won't be able to completely remove it because those other pieces are still connected. There's a few more items that are keeping it on there, but now that we have it loose, next two steps is we're going to have to remove, get this undone. So you just pull that right down. That'll pop that off. And then the last thing that is keeping us connected is, you can see the barb here that connects the cover plate, and then there's this item right here. So back out there so you can kind of see where it's at. But it's just right here, and so that's just another item that's securing it. So we'll come in here, pop that up off of it, and then you can see right there, we can just pull that right off. We'll put this off to the side here, and now you can see that entire air intake system just sitting off to the side there. Our throttle body is right here. So one of the things that they had to replace was right here on the side is the computer system has a wiring harness go into it, and this is what they had to replace. It's a common malfunction in the 09 and newer models, and so this is the piece that they said they usually keep on hand. So if you have an 09 or newer model and you're experiencing that reduced engine power, then that's probably the first place I'd have them look, and then you can go from there. So while they were replacing this, they got into my throttle body. So they got in here, and you can see a bunch of dark edges around the outside perimeter of my throttle body, and that's a bunch of gunk and residue that can really clog it up and cause long-term damage and just reduce performance. So what we're going to do is take our cleaner and get that cleaned off. You can remove the throttle body. It is suggested that you do not try and force open this butterfly system, because you can push on it and it'll open up, but it is suggested that you do not try and force open that system. Otherwise you can mess up the calibration on the computer system there, cause high idle or whatnot. So we're just going to start off with it on. So the magic tools we're using for this is going to be a B12 chem tool, carburetor choke and throttle body cleaner, and the other item is just going to be an old toothbrush. So that's really all you need for it. Depending on the type of spray that you get, most of the types I've seen have just been the evaporating spray, and so all you have to do really is we'll shake that up a bit, and you're going to spray in about 3-second bursts in there and just get all of the edges, and then after you have done that, you can go over it with that toothbrush and start cleaning it out. So I don't know if you can see that gunk. The toothbrush is really getting it up. It's pushing it around right now, so it's getting it off the edges. And we're just going to go all the way around the whole opening here, all the way around the edges. The edges is where this is usually collecting the most. You can see it's kind of pushing it around now. I'm trying to get everything broken loose, and then we'll spray it again. And so you're just going to continually do this until you get it all clean. And we'll want to wipe this brush off too, so we don't keep on contaminating it with the same stuff. And so that'll just brush a lot of that away. Again, it is a vaporizing chemical. And we'll hit it again and just keep on doing this. One reason to remove your throttle body is because just as you can see gunk on this side, there can also be gunk on the other side. So the main things you're going to have to do to remove that is there are a few bolts on the face here. You can kind of see one right at the end of the toothbrush there. There's another one here, and another one down in that corner there. So you just remove those bolts. You can remove this wiring harness, and then that's going to allow you to take that all the way off, and you can clean the other side as well. And that's going to be your best bet, because you do want it to be as clean as possible. But this is, you know, something they were trying to charge $260 for. It's taken me about 3 or 4 minutes just to get all the parts off, and it's just going to take a couple minutes to finish scrubbing kind of the rest of this portion here, and I don't think that's worth $260. So this is definitely something you can do to save yourself a lot of time and money away from the dealership. Okay, so as you can see here, we have cleaned this up as best we can using that toothbrush and the spray. And so you can't really see near as much of that black outline just going along the butterfly. And we've just cleaned it up just as much as possible, so I don't really see any residue left. And so that's where we're at with it. Now we're just going to go ahead and put it all back together. Only took a few minutes to clean it up and whatnot. So we're going to start working on putting it back together now. Okay, so we're working on putting it back together now. And so we're going to start by getting our air intake system back in place. So we'll line this back up. Make sure everything goes back right. So just make sure that you're lining up all the pieces that need to snap back into place. So we have this one probe that actually connects the top of the cover up, and then right behind that was where that other piece lined up. Make sure that both of your intake hose with the hose clamps are lining back up. You can kind of try and slide them back into place a little bit. Alright, so we have that one secure. This hose is over the appropriate part. Our radiator hose we can snap back into place now, and the other end of our intake hose we can slide back into place. So now we'll just need to take a screwdriver, start tightening the clamps, and then get back on the cover. So start at one end. Start tightening this. Make sure it's nice and snug. Don't do it too tight. Don't want to ruin anything. Strip anything. And we move on to the other one. Alright, so now we have our back piece for the rest of the intake filter. That is snapped into place. We have the radiator hose that is snapped into place. That just comes right on and off. We've secured back our hose clamp right here. And on the other end, we've secured our hose clamp. Just make sure they're not too tight, but they are nice and snug. So that's all of our big pieces. Then we're going to take this other pipe and secure that back into place as well. That snaps back into place and everything is good there. That covers our main intake system. And now we're going to put our cover back on. Alright, and then that just snaps into place and we're all back together, and that covers cleaning your throttle body.
DIY with Chris, giving you the tools to do it yourself.
DIY with Chris, giving you the tools to do it yourself.